Thanks for tuning in to As the Tire Turns podcast. Before we dive into this week's episode, I'd like to thank our sponsor, AME International. Tire professionals insist on AME. I'd also like to recognize the AACF. For over 65 years, the Automotive Aftermarket Charitable Foundation has stood by those in the automotive aftermarket industry and their families during life's toughest challenges. Since 1959, with the incredible support of industry partners, AACF has provided vital assistance to individuals and families facing financial hardship due to unforeseen circumstances, such as floods, earthquakes, storms, fires, catastrophic medical conditions, life-changing accidents, devastating fatalities, and more. AACF offers a straightforward application process and a quick turnaround time for those needing support during critical moments. Visit www.aftermarketcharity.org to access the application and learn more about how AACF can assist during times of need. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of our automotive aftermarket family. Support AACF today. And now, As the Tire Turns. Today we're interviewing none other than Matt White. You know, it's funny, where you and I really started bonding or working closer together was, I remember, it was the Off the Road conference, and you had come to me, and that was at 2012, right? So that was the year that
Puerto Rico?
Yeah, correct. Puerto Rico.
I still had gold dust in my hair from Mongolia.
Yeah,
I was
correct.
in Mongolia doing training just before that, Rio Tinto.
Haven't
traveled.
traveled.
Toglai.
Exactly. So, you know, you had said, hey, we're going to do something big, right? I need, you know, some tooling, right? But, you know, we're going to take this and go right on the road, right? Take the training to the people.
I was doing it, but it was like the road show by myself, because it's one thing to carry a TPMS tool or that, which I did throughout Canada. I did tour across Canada. Yeah. I remember going back to that, where I never had stage fright. I've always been my own professional speaker, I guess.
Yeah.
And I had to speak at the Western Canada Tire Dealers Association.
Don Blythe.
Yeah. And I think it was our president was Canadian at the time. It was on Vancouver Island. I got stuck in airports, which, as you know, that's the story of my life. But this is the beginning to get to
maybe
Victoria.
Paul Hyatt.
Hyatt.
Maybe I was going to say I don't know if that was the year or not, but I know for sure.
I didn't have a TIA shirt, so I got one made up before I left.
That's funny.
And I'm going to speak on TPMS.
Yeah.
In a country that wasn't the first part of the mandate.
True.
And they put me in between, which I was like, what? First astronaut.
Oh, wow.
For a Canadian astronaut.
Yeah.
And Cass Campbell, who was the captain of the women's hockey team for Canada. I'm like, And I'm going to talk about sensors that nobody really knows, and it's not mandatory in Canada.
You got to hold the audience.
And that right there was something that I never thought would happen.
Yeah.
That people were glued to me at that time.
Yeah.
People came up and say, we need a guy like you, to bring it, because you recognize that's just part of tire service.
Yeah.
And so we did a thing TPMS across Canada, 16 days. 16 days came out. I did from Kamloops to Manitoba, all the provinces, all the way, and ended up in Toronto for the first Auto Mechanica, speaking about TPMS and what I did across Canada with Schrader and everybody, and it became just a huge, and what came out of that was the TPMS chart. Remember that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're going back some really good history, and with that award, I put that in there because I wanted to know when they interviewed me that I wasn't talking about all this.
Yeah.
I talked about the tire technician.
It's funny. I know you, and especially because our work, right? And I know you're big and passionate with the Earth Mover tire service, and so at one of the SEMA shows at the I don't know if it was tires at 10 or TPMS at 2.
TPMS at 10, yeah.
Or TPMS, yeah. But I sat in it, and even though our business wasn't necessarily directly related, I remember sitting back there and me seeing you as somewhat of a guru, right, on Earth Mover tire service, and I'm like, wow, this guy knows everything, right? Because it was the only thing I can equate it to was the scene for My Cousin Vinny with Marissa Tomei, where right they don't expect right, and suddenly she just rattles off this. There was a guy in the audience, I don't remember what it was, but he was talking about some very specific, and boom, you were right. You know exactly what he was talking about. Could speak his language, and I'm thinking, well, this guy isn't an earth mover, right? So he's not a commercial, right? This guy's so I think the director of tire service was probably fitting, right? Because it's a very broad category, and so you've got a passion for it, I guess I'll say.
I remember one thing. There's another title that you missed. It was called The Rain Man of Tires.
The Rain Man of Tires.
Yeah,
I can see that as well.
When I started talking about Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 138 was the document they made in the Tread Act of 119 pages, and I said that up on the stage that day, and people were like,
yeah.
And then, hence, years down the road, I went up to Fort McMurray and sat with the director of tires and he goes, what do you know about earth? Or we're sitting like this. He goes, what do you know about earth movement? And I went real cocky.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. I love it.
And he and hence, we 63 inch, 57 inch, 4 inch, whatever it was, I tried to make sure that I knew, because the worst thing that I could ever do was say something up there and not know it.
Yeah.
And to me, it was a challenge. So I was sitting in airplanes, which thousands of miles of airplanes. I started studying the books, and that's where the Rain Man thing, the syndrome came in. Yeah.
I know you've mentioned a couple of different places already, right? And I know the industry has taken me to some far corners of the world. So most exotic place, or kind of like, have you ever had those moments where you wake up and you're like, how the heck did I get here, right? Where you were traveling for work. I have a guess on what you might say, but I don't
know if I would say how the heck I got here, because I always picked it.
Okay.
Unlike a lot of other people, it's like it sounded good, but once they start getting there, I can remember sitting in a thinking, coming back from one place saying, man, there's a place I really want to go.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to go there.
Yeah.
And I had read it in Mind Journal. I read it. It was an up and coming, and I had done Mongolia, and people always thought in their head, oh, it'd be Mongolia or it'd be Colombia.
That's what my guess was Mongolia.
But it's going to be a place that you know very well, but yet people very timid of it, I guess, if you will, was Barroso Mine in Mali.
Okay, yeah, so Mali. Yeah.
Mali. Yeah, I think that might have been your second choice.
Yeah, probably, right, yeah.
And the reason being I did it was Barrett Gold, obviously, and then a very well-known big customer, people known as Rana Motors, but Watts.
Yeah.
Western Africa Tire Service. They were making headlines.
Yeah.
And that was considered the most dangerous place in the world, Bamako.
Yeah.
And I said, I got to go there. And Lewis was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
And we went through Ghana, and we went through Cote d'Ivoire, and we went through all these places. But Mali, I don't know if you want to call it exotic, but a embassy, I don't know who, was coming, and I had flown into Bamako, which is UN regulated, and and unfortunately, civil war.
I was going to say civil unrest and military coups,
and I'm right in the middle of it, and I think I'm the only guy in the airport smiling.
Yeah.
And speak no language, and picked up by a guy from Nepal.
Yeah.
And he was 800 kilometers, and we found all your tools in a warehouse, and we packed it up, and we flew into there and everything like that. And literally, my handler at the time dropped me off at Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah.
And I was, had the TIA book.
Yeah.
We're going to TIA training in this place, which we did.
Unbelievable.
And it was all that what they needed. So that to me was one of the big trips among many, from all the other places. But that was.
Yeah.
Because I did have some doubt of getting into these places, but I learned one thing: people took care of me.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of the mission that I had.
It's funny. So mine is India, right? And I've been there a handful of times, but I just remember kind of this surreal scene, right? On the streets, but the people were so fantastic, right? All throughout the trip, and the one time I was there, it wasn't a super large hotel, but maybe 8 stories or something. I was on one of the higher levels, and I just remember kind of getting up in the morning, and you have this panoramic view and just kind of watching, right? You know, the city and the people starting their day.
It's amazing.
5:15, 5:30, and so yeah, just very, very different, very unique.
I was asked one time what was the most rewarding, what was different.
Yeah.
It was Columbia.
Okay.
And this was a commercial, which was different. It wasn't what Lewis and I had done port stuff. It was hooked up with a company called Tenneco.
Okay.
And did Cena was their like college that they used down there.
Yeah.
And it was in Medellin and Cali.
Yeah.
And teaching commercial truck stuff and instructors of how to instruct it. That was a rewarding thing for me because I could just see, and then coming the next year, and then when Lewis and I went down there, which was several years later, I saw the TIA program there.
Yeah.
And I knew that it worked, and they were buying
that
manuals.
It was in effect.
Yeah, Christian Sound manuals.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that there's a thirst for knowledge, and you know we've talked and you know, tire technician, especially earth mover, right? You know they almost all that work is done out in the field, right?
Yeah, most of it is, or in a mine site or remote. I mean,
Yeah.
the biggest mines in the world are all. Or I mean, that's
and so it's you know, to the one benefit I see in observing some of the classes is the collaboration and guys, you know, living, breathing, sleeping, eating tires for a couple of days, right, together, watching each other's technique and so on. That, you know, there's a lot that come out of it, and there's just some reward, I'm sure, in seeing, you know, guys that maybe at the beginning of the week, right, you know, think, well, I know this, I've been doing this 25 years or whatever, what am I going to learn?
You know how many times I've heard that one? I've been doing it 30 years.
Not my first rodeo or whatever, right? So,
what am I going to learn? And it's always been everything. And,
Yeah.
you know, I've always had that person want to, you know, kind of challenge me. You know, we just did a class. That's why I'm here. We just did this class, and we had young technicians. We had sales staff in it. We had support people from you as well in it. We had a very diversified class in this one right here. And fortunately, we have that great relationship with Miller's.
Yeah.
And
Miller Brothers locally.
Yeah, and use that hands-on. And they were amazed at the different things. And we had 2 trucks going, and I had a 400 instructor who was training with me. And as you know, it's like game day for me. I'm focused.
Yeah.
I'm focused. And I told them, I said, listen, just so you know, I don't apologize, because the problem with our industry is, when it comes to that on these giant tires, is that mistakes really usually end up possibility. It could be a fatality or a serious injury. So if you're going to speak my word, then I need you to make sure that we do it together.
Yeah.
And then the technicians, and when we finished that up where you were there, that's what I was talking about, the Ring of Fire. I put everybody in, and they say their comments. And one of the big ones that came out of that is what you said. You know, thinking about technicians, putting them all together, and how we are together, and taking this stuff back, and what they should be doing. But, you know, I don't think people really realize when they send people to these classes of how in depth we're getting to them, you know, and taking this stuff back. So that's why I really love being in those kind of classes. And some of the comments I think you commented on, taking pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
What you saw. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it was very good. So, all right, we're going to wrap it up. We got just a couple of more things. I've got an observation, and I think I'm in the minority, but for whatever reason, and I picked it up. I noticed you say TIA, which most people do, Tire Industry Association. Yeah. It's always been TIA to me. I don't know why, but I feel sometimes like maybe, you know, having served as president now, like I should probably say TIA, because I feel like most people say TIA, but it just rolls off the tongue for TIA for me. So are you bilingual, or is either one acceptable?
You know, I wear many hats with that one, because you know, I represent the largest training and organization, nonprofit, is worldwide. Yeah. And with the whole team at TIA, which I give 100% credit, Dick and Kevin and Sandra and everybody, we just
amazing
go down.
Team,
amazing team is that I want to make sure I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
Right? So I've always said TIA,
Yeah.
And then but in the classrooms, you also hear the Tire Industry Association.
Yeah.
Because the tire industry, I mean, I don't even know how many members. I'm not in membership. As you know,
Yeah.
I'm a remote.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin keeps me very focused on that, which is great.
It's
You
a
know,
moving number, but about 13,000.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as president of Tire Industry Association, you know the numbers.
Yeah.
But and I focus this with my other trainers. You know, I'm being the guy in the saddle a long time, and Kevin being, you know, in the beginning, and the greats, Marvin Bozarts, and
Absolutely.
people that have gone into
Some legends, yeah.
legends. You know, I always said that I want to be one of those legends, but I want to do it a little differently.
Yeah.
I want to give dreams to those tire technicians. And we had a young kid that he was just 21 years old in this class, and he gave me a hug today after the test.
That's awesome.
I mean, you got to look at that kind of stuff, that you're making a difference.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember when I had to say, no, TANA.
Yeah, Tire Association North America, or NTDRA,
Yeah, or
right?
whatever.
Yeah,
So,
ITRA.
Yep.
Yeah, we are an industry of acronyms, right? So,
And you've been there a long time.
yeah, correct. Okay, so wrapping up, so you're a hardworking guy, one of the hardest working guys, right? You know, can't even remotely begin to say lazy. Or I mean, I've seen you stay till 6 o'clock at night, right? You know, to get guys going, and you know, up at 7 a.m. to get things going for things. So you work a lot, but when you are not working, you can often be found. You may watch some television. I don't know, but my guess
I really don't much.
I was going to say, my guess is it is not much, because when
I did watch one this morning getting ready, because we had the test this morning, so I wasn't up at 4:30 like I have been to get everything.
Yeah,
is a fishing show.
Well, because that's where I was going. So so when you are not teaching or instructing or designing, you know, and so on, then my guess would be there's a fair chance that you are hunting or fishing.
Hunting, fishing is my some trapping, but hunting and fishing licensed charter captain. Kind of took a breather from it, but through the tire, I also ran a lodge.
Yeah.
And had licensed in Canada, licensed in Alaska. I had fished. You know, when I say that, I wasn't up there. Like, people say that you're up there for 20 years.
Yeah.
I go up there for a month. And I ran a boat out of Florida a little bit, a large boat.
Yeah.
And a drift boat on the Salmon River for steelhead. I've done that for ever since I was little.
Yeah.
And a big joke is where's Matt? Kevin says, you'll just have to see what season it is, you know?
Yeah.
And then, Matt's always booked, because as you know, I book a year plus in advance.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the 2024 schedule out. I got a 2025 calendar. So I'm kind of looking to say, well, if I'm there, then it's fishing, or I'm in Garner, Iowa with Travis and his family and everybody. It's walleye season. Oh, North Dakota is open. Oh, let's go to, and I mean, when I say fishing, it's all fishing for me. It's ice fishing, salmon fishing, saltwater fishing, fly fishing, this fishing, hunting.
Anything and everything.
Avid bow hunter. I've fortunately have traveled to all provinces.
Yeah.
Yep. Climbed mountains, done that.
I know you were planning right before heading north to have a charter here, but we've got weather coming in. And the captain canceled.
Yeah, and ironically, I'm going to hit right into weather all the way up.
Yeah.
And I also had a duck trip where I was taking clients out for duck hunting, because that's a big for us up there. And I don't believe in the word cancel.
Yeah.
I just believe in changing the date.
Yeah, just moving or realigning.
It was kind of funny. My wife was saying at first. I said, "Well, I don't know. I might go." She goes, "Well, let me think about this for a minute. You'll go out in 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot seas, 10 degrees out there, break ice. I've seen you for 30 plus lovely years."
Yeah, correct.
She's also. You always have to think of the wife, right?
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah.
30 plus weeks hunting, fishing, and then in a boat, but yet you're gonna let somebody talk you out of a storm or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right, aren't you? Yeah. And as you know, Wendy, my beautiful wife, is always right. I tell her.
Yeah. So we've got one little. We'll let you get on the road then, because I know you are trying to see if you can get in front of it. So hopefully listeners have learned something, right, about you maybe didn't know before. I know I learned something just this week, and that is, or maybe last week, that is that you are a connoisseur of sorts in certain areas. And so I'm not sure exactly how we did this, but we're going to close with we have got you. That right there is the ice cream of the future. That's for you.
That's my Dippin Dots. And as the hockey thing, wanted to be the hockey, we went.
Well, here's the challenge thing, right? You see Dippin Dots typically at stadiums, right? I'm not sure where else.
Or a fair or whatever.
So,
and I've never done, because I'm always having a alcoholic beverage or beer. So when we got there, I offered to drive.
Yeah.
Because your daughters took me, and we went out to the game. When I first got here, I mean, I drove 20 hours to get here, right straight through, as you know I like to do. And so we went to the game.
Yeah.
And I obviously was driving, so I had my one beer that I could have early, and then JC went and got some chicken, and she goes, "You want some Dippin' Dots?" And I go, "Dippin' Dots? I could have one more beer. Dippin' Dots." So I had Dippin' Dots, and I got a freeze brain. Brain freeze. I call it freeze brain. I do it backwards, because my brain was freezing. But I shoved it down, and I could see that JC and Ted had almost all theirs, and mine was gone.
Yeah, that's funny.
So then
maybe there's somebody eating ice cream at a hockey, right? Because it's cold already in there.
It was super. And then we went to the Mermaids show on Saturday night, the Christmas show.
That's right. Weeky watching.
What did the girls get me? Dippin' Dots.
They got that. So
cookies and creams like Oreos is the best.
So that was I don't know how, and maybe this is small town. I said Tampa Bay, but we're in Brooksville, right? And so that was acquired from a pharmacy that just happened to have in their drive-up window. How do they have Dippin' Dots? Like a local pharmacy that had Dippin' Dots. And I said, I know Matt was talking about Dippin' Dots. Can you call and see? Like, I'm almost embarrassed to walk in and say, "Do you sell Dippin' Dots?" And sure enough, they did. So I don't know how often. So I don't know if Dippin' Dots can go bad or not. But
I don't think so. They just melt. But I know one thing. Maybe I'll have my sticker on some Dippin' Dots someday.
Yeah. Listen, Ben and Jerry's does that, right?
Never thought it'd be on a lubrication for tire mounting and dismounting. So
that's true. Well, that's probably a perfect way for us to end. I appreciate you sitting down with us. Is there anything, what's up in the future, or anything you have in store that you want to share? Or
well, as you know, I like those surprises, the big bangs that come out, and the OTR conference last year was a big one. I do promise another.
Yeah.
It's more to secrecy with Kevin. Kevin's really been in the works with some things. So that's the OTR program.
Yeah.
As you know, that's dear in my heart and yours as well.
Absolutely.
Being my president, we really push for that. So that's a thing coming up. We have release, which is very early. The team has really been on it. I've been on the road a lot, so Chris and Kim and Blondie and Sean and Jose, they've been working on the schedule, but we have released a 2024 schedule.
Yeah, beautiful.
2024 is in my mirror right now. I'm looking at 2025 right now.
Well, I was just going to say, I guess maybe one last thing for this is I think what they call a Southern goodbye, right? Where it takes you 3 or 4 attempts.
Longer than the interview.
Yeah, exactly. It takes you 3. Yeah, right. So I always say, because of passion, because of sitting through, and there's a lot of great trainers out there, right? So I'm not taking anything away from them, but I know that like you don't accept, right? And you got the tough customer, right? If somebody's having a difficult time, you'll spend extra time with them.
I'll stay with them.
Yeah, you bring everybody in. If somebody's kind of trying to be a wallflower or stand back, right? You'll make them feel comfortable. So if somebody says specifically, I don't want just training, I want Matt. Right, like when is a good time? Is it 9 to 12 months? Right. I mean, I know
it just depends. I mean, I do say some things, and I have a cancellation, and I go and I literally made myself sick.
Years ago,
traveling because I couldn't say no. And Kevin said you got to learn how to say no sometimes because you won't be able to do it in the future. And And I do get a lot of that.
Yeah.
That hey, we want, because I'm specialized in what I do. You know,
For
we got
sure.
a great team out there, and they're always busy as well.
Yeah.
For private bookings, I literally just took a call on 4 weeks for 2025.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, because I do those kind of private classes that it's dedicated right towards the way they do things.
Yeah.
Procedures using the TIA procedures and showing the correct way with tools and Stellar trucks and all the sponsors and everything like that. But I got that passion to do it. So it's just like, hey, I'll make it work. I just don't know how yet, but I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Like that. One person said, you give out your card, can we call your phone number? And I said, this morning? And I said, yeah, but I won't answer it.
Yeah.
You notice one thing with me, if you see me on the phone, there's an issue.
Yeah.
An
Correct.
issue. And I'm not because I'm focused to the people in front of me.
Yeah.
But yesterday, I think I had like 20 texts just on questions.
Yeah.
About one was a wheel, one was lubrication,
Yeah.
one was this, one was a tool. And I have such a fantastic following with AME and Stellar and Fuller Brothers and Rubber. I can just keep going and going. Ken Duell and everybody. And I can just make a phone call and people say, hey, Matt said to call, and they actually know who you are.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, they knew who I am, and fortunately, I've been fortunate for that to, I think, and I know, and I hear it, make a difference.
Yeah, I would
That's
agree.
it. I want to make sure that people know the message, and the message that I've always had is I want their guys to go home at night.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
That's
rule
it.
number one. Yep.
Yeah.
I've traveled and I'm very fortunate, right? And I've traveled all over the world, but I tell people there's some trips you have to go on, and there's some trips you get to go on, and I think working with people, it's kind of the same thing. There's people you have to work with, but I'm very pleased to say that I get to work with Matt White and the Tire Industry Association. So that might be the only time I say Tire Industry Association instead of TIA. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and we appreciate everything that you do for the industry.
I've been through all the presidents every year.
Yeah.
And one thing with the presidents and everybody else that comes onto the board, they've always been supportive.
Yeah.
Supportive. And I know this position was near and dear to your heart. And,
Yeah.
and here you are, and I know you're going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And you always have. And the people in front of you and the people behind you and everybody's coming. And that's what makes us association.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, whether we say TIA or how it is.
TIA, it's irrelevant, yeah.
It's an association that is well needed.
Yep.
And we can't be without it.
Yeah.
We just can't. And people say, when are you going to retire, man? I noticed that was a big question out here.
Yeah.
I think you heard me say it to somebody. I'm thinking about living till 100. So they pretty much stuck with me for a while. I'm not really looking at that. I just, as you know, I've been beat up just like tire technician, but at the same time, those guys got to keep going. So won't I.
There's still a mission. I agree.
Yeah, as long as I got my Dippin Dots,
I was going to say, so cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and safe travels home.
I appreciate being on this podcast. This is going to be, I can see some really good ones.
Absolutely. We got a lot of good ones lined up.
How many? Do we have a figure?
24 is the working
Awesome.
number, right? We got about 20 that are confirmed, but working out dates. So.
In the beginning, you used the term characters. I bet you there's going to be some real characters.
There's going to be some characters.
Can't wait to see them. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay. Have a good day.
Take care, buddy. You too. Thanks for listening to As the Tire Turns. Tune in next week when we sit down with guest Mike Barra from Community Tire Retread.